Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So, we are looking at, once again, GOP hopefuls, vice presidential running mates, once again, because we just got this photo, and I know, I don't think I can get it a much bigger photo. Let's see, I can snip it, but this photo was taken at Mar-A-Lago. And this is supposedly Trump's list of running mates. Of course, these people all back Donald Trump. They all endorsed Trump. And it's supposedly Trump's said list. But yeah, we're going to go ahead. You can see all my saved files, but whatever. We're going to go to. I'm going to X out all my mapping work, but we're going to go ahead and kind of examine this photo. And yeah, it's not that really great, to be honest, quality wise. But then again, you'll see you got favorites. You got Tim Scott. I think Tim Scott's right here. You got House Speaker Johnson, J.D. Vance. I think that's Vivek behind him. But you got all these group of people here. And it's been a while since we checked on the list. And boy, it's kind of updated. On May 2nd, 2024, as you know from this picture, it was reported that Trump had reduced his short list from 15 to 4 people. And he would be meeting with them at Mar-A-Lago and West Palm Beach, Florida, to decide on a running mate for the election. These 4 candidates, as you know, are Doug Burgum, Marco Rubio, Tim Scott, and J.D. Vance. 3 of them senators, 1 governor. And I'm going to kind of share my thoughts with you, on how a possible campaign would look. Doug Burgum, I am putting on the bottom of the list. He does not make me enthusiastic. I wouldn't even call him a Trump Republican. For starters, he ran against Trump in this election cycle, and sure, yeah, he suspended his campaign because he was kind of forced to. He only was at the first debate, and from there he went taken all the way down. Yeah, but Doug Burgum, sure, his policies are like Trump's when it comes to like abortion, but I don't think Mr. Burgum motivates a crowd to go out and vote. And this VP is supposed to kind of lift Trump up in the polls more, get someone out. Like, you want to see the two. The two are supposed to be stars together. The president obviously has to be the big picture. But there's also another guy that you like that helps to go out and vote. And Doug Burgum, he's not that guy. I honestly have a hard time. I think of Doug Burgum as your average Minnesota Republican who, if Doug Burgum ran in Minnesota, he would straight out lose. I'm just saying, he reminds me of that Republican. Being in North Dakota, he easily wins. I'm just saying, it's kind of easy to see your electoral record when you basically look at, for instance, like in your red state, North Dakota, he wins by 67%. Yeah, that's North Dakota for you. And sure, the voting turnout was probably lower. Like, why would you vote in an election that you most likely will lose if you were in like a Democrat or something like that? So, and he kind of reminds me of Mike Pence in many ways. He's that Pence sort of figure, and I can see him doing some backstabbing. He is nowhere near a diehard MAGA Republican. Um, I wouldn't say he's a Bush Republican. He is. I don't want to say he is somewhat of a Scott Republican or a Gingrich Republican. I do think he is more of the evangelical side. And going after evangelical candidates, that's good, but evangelicals are most likely going to go for you regardless, right? They're going to go for you regardless. You want a candidate that is from, that'll bring the other faction of voters out and voting. So, Doug Burgum, he's on the bottom of this four. You have Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, I think, is a really good figure from Florida. He's made himself out to be a figure, and I think he does attract more of the Hispanic crowd. He has once again attracted more Hispanic voters in Florida in his 2022 run for re-election. You'll see he has 157.638%. He won Miami-Dade County by around 55%. That's a big. And Miami-Dade County, if you're unfamiliar, is a county with a tremendous amount of Hispanics. And yes, and believe it or not, the Hispanic population is pretty popular in the county of Miami-Dade. He couldn't win Palm Beach. But once again, I mean, and plus Marco Rubio was the only candidate in 2022 in the Florida Republican side who didn't carry Palm Beach. So that is, I just personally think there was probably too much third party vote or just split ticketing. Val Demings, who is the first lady of Orange County or Orlando, but I don't know which one, but really I do think that despite Marco Rubio being from Florida, he has a good electoral history. He has had good publicity. Like in 2010, he did carry Orlando. Well, he carried Orlando because of these two, because these two are left wingers kept split ticketing each other, and that led to Republican Marco Rubio carrying Orange County and Osceola County along with Hillsborough. So that is why Rubio carried solid blue areas. Even Alachua County, which is also tend to be a diehard blue county. But yes, and there's even 2016. He does okay. But yeah, I think Marco Rubio is a good choice. I would definitely put him over Burgum if you are to say things. I wouldn't call Rubio a MAGA Republican. I would definitely call him a Christian right Republican in general. Tim Scott, he's good. I like Tim Scott, but I can also see him also doing some backstabbing. I like Marco Rubio because Rubio is chill. I mean, I think he personally has a chill personality. I'm not a fan that he's from Florida because, we should try to diversify things a little bit. But then there's Tim Scott. Tim Scott is, yeah, he has a good electoral history. But then again, South Carolina, right? South Carolina. And so I personally would put Tim Scott on the bottom below Marco Rubio. Then there is JD Vance, who honestly I do like. I really like him. The only problem I have about JD Vance is he was just elected in 2022 and has had only experience of 1 year and 5 months in the Senate. Are you sure he's up for the role for vice president? Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, he has a good background because he was a never Trumper during the as you know, he was a never Trumper and he's basically a never Trumper converted to Trumper. That, and we never usually see that. People usually never Trumpers, and that people that admit that Trump was right all along, they tend to don't want to be. They shut themselves up because they don't want it to be criticized, right? They don't want to be admit. They could be. They don't want to be admit they were wrong, but they don't want to be criticized. They don't want to be like, oh, you went back on your criticism. But JD Vance, he says, you know what? I take that to account. I say, look, this is, as you know, this is how it is. So I do like JD Vance. I think a Trump Vance ticket would be very, very strong. And I applaud that, especially he is very young, 39 years old. So absolutely, I would applaud and support a JD Vance ticket. Also, how like for example, we could put Vivek Ramaswamy in the Senate. Like if you say if JD Vance wins, I would rather have Vivek in the Senate because then some rhino that Mike DeWine is probably going to put in there. But yeah, especially if we do flip Ohio, we would have 2 new members. But yes, it's interesting stuff. But Vivek Ramaswamy, I think he's getting a seat in the good old seat. But it would just support a JD Vance ticket. Yes, he was a part of. So yes, Vance was a critic of Donald Trump during the 2016 election, becoming a member of the Never Trump movement, but changed his rhetoric after announcing his candidacy for the Senate. During his tenure in the Senate, he has been a staunch Trump loyalist and defender of Trump's most authoritarian assertions. I wonder who wrote that. Like, Donald Trump is not authoritarian. Donald Trump is Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been like this his whole entire life. You can call it authoritarian, but literally, it's just hilarious because I bet this editor, I don't know, if this editor, if Trump was a Democrat running, this editor would not be calling Trump authoritarian. It would be hilarious. In fact, I mean, they'd still hate him. The far left would hate him still because he's pro-Israel. But yeah, I mean, when Trump was a Democrat, he followed the guidelines a little bit, but I would describe him as a libertarian. Absolutely. He wasn't authoritarian. Authoritarian leftism is taking away your guns, as you know, installing sex ed in schools, forcing kids to learn without parental notice, restricting parental rights, and a right to know what your kid is learning, and ultimately high taxes. It's just hilarious. And they call Trump authoritarian. Really? Okay. Yeah, and JD Vance would strongly disagree. So I would say definitely JD Vance and Marco Rubio. What do you guys think? I could drop a poll for you guys and see what you guys think. I would love to have Tulsi Gabbard, but a lot of you guys say, "Oh, he's too on the liberal side," right? Too much on the liberal side. I mean, she's a conservative. She was a part of the Blue Dog. What's it called? Yeah, it's the Blue Dog Coalition or something like that. Yeah, it's more of a conservative caucus for Democrats. Um, Byron Donalds, I also like him, but you know how I'm critical towards people in the House of Representatives. There's just 400 people in the House of Representatives in total, 435, and there's no way you can try to memorize all 435. It's going to take a lot. I mean, there's this Byron Donalds guy, and I'm like, okay, he's picking a U.S. representative. Like, you got to pick someone that, oh, I know that person. I'm going to go out and vote for these two. Like, you should know when Donald Trump says that name, it should basically turn on like a light bulb. I will tell you, Tim Scott has a really good chance because Tim Scott actually has been ascending up lately. Well, this is the March. Is this April? This is the reported short list, the confirmed short list. So basically, this is pretty much, as you know, the list. Tim Scott has been trending, and honestly, has been trending for a while. But yeah, this is your list. I'm going to be dropping a poll later. But anyway, and you guys can go and ask. And I want to know what your thoughts would be. What would the best ticket be? Doug Burgum, Marco Rubio, Tim Scott, or JD Vance? I'm critical to all four of them to a point. Doug Burgum's boring. Marco Rubio, fantastic senator, great electoral history, knows how to get Hispanic vote out in voting. Only criticisms to that is from Florida. And you usually want to pick someone that's from a swing state, so you'll be like, oh, you feel the people in that swing state are getting represented in that campaign, and you want to go and support that campaign. But Florida, yeah, Donald Trump's already representing Florida. It would definitely make Florida go ultra red, but I think Florida's going red regardless. But Tim Scott, yeah, I like him. Very great guy. He's a loyal Trump supporter. I wouldn't call him a MAGA. I would definitely say he's more of the Christian evangelical right. He is, I would say, I would align him. I'm like, to a point, I don't trust Scott. To a point, I don't trust Burgum. They're both They're both Trump opponents in the 2024 nomination. To a point, I think they're gonna to a point you would have endorsed Trump to begin with immediately if you supported a Trump, but they ran their own campaigns. So I would have to say, you know what? Tim Scott's better than Burgum, in my opinion. And then finally, there's JD Vance. Amazing guy, true life story. Once a Trump hater, becoming a Trump admirer in the U.S. Senate. And all the liberal lies just unfolded right in front of him. And we see him being a MAGA supporter. And you know what? This is a true conversion because that's how bad the lies are. Even so, a Trump hater in 2016 and 2020 became a Trump supporter in 2024 because when he got into the Senate, he clearly saw all the lies dumping on him, overwhelming lies. So, but the only criticism I have for him is he's 1 month and 1 year and 5 months in politics, and I'm like, okay, are you sure you really want to dump the vice presidency on him right now? I mean, JD Vance, he was a guy to begin with. He was a figure to begin with. It sounded like if yeah. He sounds like he was an influential figure before 2016. But I don't know. I do think Vance's story very well will help. Not just, I do think it will help get Ohio more red. But yeah, I definitely support JD Vance. I love that guy. But it's hard for me to say which one's better, Marco Rubio or Tim Scott. If there's no majority, if there's no 50% majority, I could do a second round. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I will see you all in the next political episode.